Dr. Malsane is currently working as an associate professor at the National Institute of Construction Management Research, also known as NICMAR, from Pune campus. He completed masters in construction management from Loughborough University, UK, and doctorate in the area of building informational modeling from Northumbria University in UK. Here he was the recipient of the PhD Studentship Award by Northumbria University and Royal Institute of British Architects Enterprises as cooperating partner. Before his current affiliation with the NICMA, Dr. Malsane has also worked as project architect in Pune and teaching assistant at Northumbria University in UK. His research specialization includes building information modeling, design management, sustainable development management, building design and construction innovation, and research design and execution quantities using Revit. With this short introduction, I would like to invite Dr. Malsane on behalf of Professor Sandeep Chaudhary for initiating this session.
Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, so let me straight away jump into the topic, uh, building information modeling. Now, there's a good chance you might have heard about this concept uh, into different context at different forums, etc. Today, the whole focus or the sort of scope of my uh, presentation would be restricted to understand the BIM as a process, building information modeling as a process. I'm going to particularly stay away from the global development, etc., because that will eat out a lot of time from the presentation, and wherever required, I'll bring the global context. But as such, I'm not going to focus on that aspect too much. The focus would be more on explaining the process and how we can really use it in our context, in the Indian context, etc. That is basically the foundation of my presentation. Okay, so generally, typically we always talk about BIM, building information modeling, and we tend to get this impression that BIM is a sort of a piece of software, is something technology, is an example of technology, or it is something which has come into the industry, or it has come into the market, and it will really, really revolutionize the way we do our projects. But 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 the solution or the answer to that question is not that straightforward. That BIM will come and then suddenly it will sort of change the whole scenario. I don't think so. That is the solution, or that should be the point of view we should look at it. Okay, so just to sort of set the foundation, I would just like to get the background right. I just want to brief about our current industry scenario, what is happening, etc., and then I can bring BIM into the picture. Okay, so generally it has always been said that construction industry, which is made up of architects, engineer, contractors, and even facility management, operation management, etc. And it is a impression, or it has been a well-known fact that the construction industry works in silos, or it works in departments, compartment. We like to compartmentalize our responsibilities. We like to compartmentalize our work culture, etc. So many times this argument has been put forward that because of this compartmentalization, we are not able to achieve what we are supposed to achieve in terms of productivity, in terms of resource optimization, in terms of finishing our projects within the cost, within the time, etc. These are some of the issues which has the construction industry has been plagued with for many years. Correct? Like if typically if we look at any project, any construction project, any building project, or any infrastructure project, you will see these 4 life cycle stages there. Conceptualization or planning stage, which is at the beginning of your project. And once you set your requirements, once you establish your requirements as per the client's needs, as per the client's desires, his expectation, etc. When you well establish that, then you move on to the design phase. correct? And where different consultants, they come into the picture, architects, engineers, various engineers as on the basis of their expertise, like structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, you know, HVAC engineer, acoustic, so many different people from different expertise. They get invited, they get involved in the project, and they are primarily there to provide their expertise. They provide their input, and on that basis, we do the design. They do the design, and then those design, they get sent to the site for the execution purpose, correct? And and then basically this communication exchange between the design stage and execution happens. There's a lot of front and back exchange of information, communication, and then eventually with a lot of hurdles, with a lot of challenges, the projects get executed. And then once the project sort of get executed, another important phase of the project is to now maintain that project throughout its life cycle, to sort of now operate that project. And one of the important ultimate aim behind that phase is to keep the daily operational cost as minimum as possible, maintain the facilities, make sure all your building services, they run without any interruption, correct? So it's almost like it's almost like an industry which needs to function every day and night, you know. So that sort of that's how our construction industry has been constituted. These are the main phases, and all these phases have so many different participants. We may call them as stakeholders, correct? And the issue, one of the issue about the constitution or this structuring is that many times people, they like to work from their own offices, and they like to feel that their scope of the work is this much, and they don't like to sort of get involved into other scope, or they don't sort of overlap into others responsibility or sort of scope. So many times that is why the construction has got this reputation of being fragmented. And because we have this nature of fragmentation, we tend to have a lot of errors in our projects. We tend to have a lot of errors at the different stages of our project. And of course, that eventually leads to having an output which is not what was really expected. So the whole idea behind BIM is that, or this has been a problem, and then the industry leaders, main stakeholders, they have been trying to find a solution. How can we get away from this reputation? How can we rise from this situation where we have been struggling with these problems? And these problems have not been associated with the industry for last few years. It has been associated with the industry for many years. So we have been in search of finding solution. We have been in search of finding better processes, and 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 probably use of technology or technological solutions is something which is one of the sort of paradigm where we have been looking forward to. We have been trying to see if we can get certain solutions from advancement. Just like in general life also, we have been accepting technology to just to make our life more easy, just to make our life more comfortable, etc. Similarly, we have been trying to find solution to our different problems which are associated with the construction industry with the help of new solution. Okay, just to just to give a brief about how we are struggling with our with completing our projects. For example, look at here this pie chart. Just a small snapshot. I haven't really gone into too much detail because I thought one small snapshot will also sort of give an overview of what is the status of the industry. This is the data from Ministry of Statistics, and they have been talking about infrastructure project costing having more than 150 crore. And you can see that 33% projects have showing the cost overrun, 30% projects are showing the time escalation, both time and cost escalation 10%. Only 1% projects are either on time or ahead of schedule, and 26% projects are on schedule. So This is, of course, there are different reasons. There are different background for all these projects to get delayed, to have cost overrun. Uh, we are not denying there have been sincere efforts also from the participants, from the stakeholders to finish the project on time, but somehow we are struggling. That is the fact. Okay, we are not been able to get the maximum out of our people. We are not been able to get the maximum out of our resources. We have not been able to get maximum out of our equipment, etc. And there are many reasons for that. Okay, so we have to find solution. We have to have a certain new approaches towards how we approach our project. Uh, we have to change methodologies, etc. And in the same context, basically, this BIM concept has been sort of taken the almost the center stage, you can say, uh, in the given context. You will find this explanation of this, you'll find this term used more often than not into various platforms where construction, where the discussion have been happening with regards to how we can finish our project, how can we do better, etc. So in that context, yes, uh, this concept has really gained a lot of momentum. Now let me provide a small overview of what sort of problems currently the industry is facing. Of course, I cannot go into all the details of all the problems. It is practically impossible, but just I'll pick few problems. I'll just discuss few of them. Okay, just to get the platform right, just to sort of set the tone of the presentation right. For example, as I said, repetition. We tend to do a lot of repetitive works, especially at design stage. When architects, they design the work, many times structural engineers, they tend to produce their own design. Instead of using the architect's design, they sort of keep creating their own data. They sort of keep duplicating the data. And that leads to a lot of wastage of man hours. Okay, because why? Because we don't have enough collaborative approaches when we do the work. When designers, many times what happens, designers work from different offices, from different locations, and all these designers, consultants have their own style of working, have their own ways of producing output. So they find it very difficult to sort of collaborate on a common platform, share information very smoothly without any interruption, and then get the best out of this. So that they can also save on a lot of time and effort, and in general, project can also reap the benefit out of this one. So this repetition in the work, or repetitive doing the same works, is really something hampering the construction industry. Okay, then change management. Change management has become one of the really important critical issues here, because we have so many different participants who are working, and because many times even client also is responsible for making a lot of changes, and even consultants and contractors, because of not having a good understanding between them, they also sort of tend to create a lot of changes for each other, or tend to make a lot of changes for each other, and that leads to loss of productivity, that leads to wastage of time and energy. So change management, or you can also call it as request for information, RFI. RFI is another issue where contractor issues request for information from the consultant. Why? Because contractor is not completely satisfied with the way the designers are producing their outputs. So these are some of the issues which have been really hampering the industry in a big way. Okay, drawing changes and rework, friction between the members. We don't have sort of this amiable nature between different participants, client, contractor, consultant. They tend to show a lot of unhappiness towards each other. That is also one of the reasons that we are not able to deliver the projects in an integrated fashion. We're not approaching projects as a teamwork where we can have shared success and we can have shared reward, or we can also share the failure also, if need to be. So that sort of mindset really pulls us back in comparison to other industries such as manufacturing industry, automobile, pharma industry, where they have been progressing at a good pace. They have been showing good results, and in general, the atmosphere in the industry is satisfactory if you compare that with the construction industry. So now, just to explain this point a bit more further, so why do we need a BIM, or why do we need a new approach? BIM basically represents a new approach or a new process. So then somebody will ask me the question, why should we need to have a new approach, or what can we expect out of this approach? So just to sort of set that right, for example, at the industry level, what sort of expectation or what sort of issues we have? The ACE industry is, as I said before, it's lagging behind when it comes to adoption of technology, or when it comes to productivity, or when it comes to resource optimization. It is really lagging behind in comparison to the other parallel industry, okay? Or the way we approach the projects, or we are still stuck in the 2D format of the drawings. We are still not shifted, or we are still not transited from the traditional practices of making drawings. And the issue here is the technology has been progressing at a rapid speed, but we are not able to rise, or we are not able to keep the pace with the speed of the technology. Coordination and completion, another issue which we have been facing. Collaboration, time and cost optimization. Our safety standards, we need to rise. We need to have base safety standards so that our people who are working on sites, they feel safe. There are zero accidents on site, etc. So basically, in this context, it's really important. It really makes sense to have something like BIM, which has shown theoretically, or in other countries, which has shown that with BIM you can deliver your projects in a much better manner. Building information modeling. Okay, like for example, poorly coordinated design documents. This is something which we have been struggling. Change order and rework, unhappy owners, tight profit margins, lack of proper planning, difficulty in responsibility fixation, lack of project monitoring, program monitoring. These are some of the issues which we have been plagued with, and something which we really need to counter, something which we will have to rise. And that in that context, sort of BIM is really coming at the forefront. People are looking at BIM with a lot of hope that with adoption of BIM, probably we will reduce these challenges. We will sort of counter these challenges more successfully. We will have a solution to all these issues which we are facing. So people are optimistic. People are looking at this as a possible solution, and to an extent, expecting something like that from BIM is not at all incorrect. Okay. So far, any doubts so far? Anyone would like to ask anything before I go ahead with my slides? Please feel free to ask, because it will be really nice to have a bit more interactive way of this communication. I will also get a good idea about what exactly you expect, etc. So if anyone has any query, any doubt, please feel free to ask.
So I don't think participants have any queries at this point of time.
Okay.
You can talk.
Okay. So before I really go into the details of what exactly BIM stands for, I would first like to address the misconception about BIM. Okay. For example, one of the first important misconception about BIM is that it is a piece of software, or it is a single software, or it is a software which produces 3D models, 3D buildings, etc. So many times people or construction participants they tend to think that if a software basically they tend to sort of reduce BIM to a piece of software or a piece of technology, etc. But no, that is not the 100% truth. BIM does not stand for only a single piece of software. Also, BIM does not mean only producing 3D building model. Like many times, a lot of software companies, for example, they have this tendency to sort of portray themselves as, you know, BIM, or rather they try to sell their software saying that we are BIM softwares, because they know that in the market people have been looking for BIM solutions, or people are positive about BIM concept. So they sort of try to say that our software is a BIM software, but actually it is a wrong perception. If I have to really simplify this, it is like saying that uh, every noodle in the market is Maggie, right? But that is not true. Maggie is one of the options of buying noodle, quick noodle, but there are other sort of options in the market. Okay, other vendors are there in the market who can provide different sort of noodles. This is very similar to that, basically, that there are different vendors, there are different software companies who are producing or who are launching new software applications, and they can become part of BIM process, but they are not BIM. So this is something, a misconception which has been very predominantly exist in the market. So that's why I thought I'd address that in the beginning itself. So BIM is a software, that is a misconception, or it's a single software, or BIM means 3D models, no, or three-dimensional models. That means length, width, and height. But no, that is also incorrect. Every 3D model or every model which appears like a 3D does not mean it is a BIM. Or another misconception about BIM is that it is only for architects and consultants. So clients tend to feel that we have as such no role for BIM, or the contractors, they tend to feel that BIM concept is mainly applicable for architects or consultant. That means stage number 2, design and producing drawings. But it is factually incorrect, because contractors can participate in the BIM. They are one of the very important integral part of BIM process, and there are a lot of benefits which they enjoy, or which they can enjoy through BIM. So this is another misconception. Then lot of people have this perception about BIM that it is a completely automated process. That means once we have BIM, everything will be done automatically, etc. Some sort of this misconception is there. Then most of the time, a lot of industry participants, they feel it's a costly process because of the digital development of, or establishment of digital infrastructure, providing all the digital infrastructure costs, etc. That sometimes sort of hesitates them from trying something new. But if you see the overall project cost, if you see the scale of the project, in comparison to that, digital infrastructure cost will be very minimal. And of course, this digital infrastructure could be reusable from one project to another. You can use it, etc. So yes, it is a misconception. And then many times people feel that, or industry participants, they feel that you need special qualification or specialization with regards to BIM. But then, because what I'm trying to say is that BIM has been a concept which is applicable, or which incorporates everyone in the industry, or it is relevant to everyone who is working in the construction industry, that you really don't need any different specialization. You just need to relate yourself or your profile with the BIM process. You just need to align yourself with the BIM process. Okay, so again, this is a sort of a misconception, where you really need a tremendous specialization. Yes, you need certain understanding of BI, but it's not. But even a person who is working as a quantity surveyor, you know, he should be able to relate with himself with BIM process. At the same time, somebody who's working on client's behalf as a coordinator, he should also be able to relate himself or align himself with the BIM process. Or even somebody who is a structural engineer, or somebody who's a costing expert, or somebody who is a landscape architect. Everyone should be able to see himself in the in the bigger umbrella of BI. Okay. So this was mainly about some of the misconceptions which are associated with BI. Like for example, as you can see on the screen, 3D geometry is only a part of BI. Okay. So what I've been trying to say is that many times people tend to see that 3D geometry means or a three-dimensional building model means BI. I'll just show. Like for example, something like this one. Whenever you see a 3D model, this is an industrial project, you tend to feel that this is, or somebody will try to say that this is a this is an example of building information model. Okay, but in fact, this BIM acronym, it stands for two meanings. Okay, one is the first acronym BIM, it stands for building information model, and the second acronym or the same acronym stand for another meaning, which is building information modeling as a process. Okay, so this acronym it gets used in different context, and as per the context you will be able to make the meaning out of it. For example, when I look at this building, I'll say that it is an example of building information model. So it's a 3D model. So what I'm trying to say is that when so basically this BIM acronym, it stands for two meanings. One, building information model, and second, building information modeling process. Okay, so typically you will always have this context where somebody is saying that we would like to deliver the project through BI, or we would like to complete the project using BI. That means what they are trying to say is that they would like to have BIM as a process. So it is almost like a project management process. It is almost like a project management tool in the form of BI, or a project management related parallel process. Okay, where you would want, or BIM process is almost like a sort of umbrella. Under that your project falls, and under that umbrella your project will be completed. Okay, it encompasses the whole scenario or whole context of the project. Okay, so building information model, the picture you have seen, it is an example of building information model. Now, why it is an example of building information model? And if I go back to the last slide, look at here. We have said that 3D geometry is only part of BIM. Not all 3D models qualify as BIM. Okay, so just because this building looks like a 3D building, that cannot be the basis to make it as a fully BI. That means complete building information model. Okay, but of course, because it is a 3D model, it has the visualization aid. It has an advantage. It has a certain advantage over a 2D drawing. Correct. Typically, if we say, I always explain this to my students in our regular classes, that in construction, you know, when we speak or when we communicate in construction, it is not that we call each other and explain how the building needs to be constructed, or it is not that we write lengthy emails or letters that how the construction should happen. Our language in construction is the drawing. We use drawing as mode of communication. Correct. We use 2D drawings basically. Traditionally, we have been if we really go back to the history, it started from manual drafting. It shifted to CAD, computer aided drawing, 2D format, and now we are slowly transiting to 3D building models. So so basically what I'm trying to emphasize here is this particular drawing is sort of acts as a mode of communication. So people send drawing, and those who receive the drawing, they have this unique ability to read the drawings, make a meaning out of it, and then use those drawings for execution purpose. Correct. And we have certain sort of what you call standards which we have decided, or certain understanding among us that drawing should be interpreted in a certain way. It's almost like a language which we have developed among ourselves, among the stakeholders. So we can read those drawings, we can make a meaning out of those drawings, and then we can even successfully execute the drawings. But of course, reading those drawings, and of course those drawings are not always with all the information. And that is why we need to now shift from, with the help of technology, because the technology has now grown in such a way that we have come to a point where we need to now, especially the consultants, they need to now shift from 2D CAD to 3D models. Okay, but just because you have produced a model from 2D drawing, that does not mean it's a complete building information model. Yes, it's a 3D model, so it has a certain advantage. It has a visual aid. It has a visual visualization aid. But for to be called a building information model, that building must possess lot of construction semantics. That building must possess lot of information which is useful from construction execution point of view. Okay, what does that mean? Somebody will say that, what does that mean? So basically it means, for example, in this context, if I have to speak, what kind of material I have been I'm going to use for the construction, what kind of paintings, or what kind of fireproofing material, or what is the distance, what kind of road I'm going to construct, what will be the different layers in the road construction of material, etc. All that information is available in the information model. That is why when we say that BIM, this I is extremely important. Building information model. So it's a building model with lot of information. Okay, so this is one acronym, BIM, building information model. And another meaning of this acronym is that building information model as a process. What does that mean? That means I am going to complete the project through this process. Okay, so look at here. Look at here, this particular sort of graphics you can see. So traditionally, if you look at BIM, it has a composition of three main elements. It definitely has your 3D geometry. So instead of 2 dimensions, we have three-dimensional geometry. And of course, I'm talking this in the context of all types of project. It is not necessarily associated with only building projects. Even this applies to infrastructure project. It applies to different port projects, etc. Different typologies of projects. So 3D geometry, then shared data and knowledge, and different building components. So BIM as a process combines all these three different important ingredients. Okay. So look at here. It is a process. When somebody says that what is the building information modeling as a process, it is a process involving the generation and management of digital representation of physical and functional characteristics of places. Look at here. It is a process which generates and manages the digital representation. So whatever your project you're planning to execute, it's a digital representation of its physical and functional characteristics. And at the same time, it is a shared knowledge resource for information about a facility, forming a reliable basis for decision throughout its life cycle. Okay, so it is not only about its digital representation of the building or project's physical and functional characteristics, but BIM also provides a data set. BIM also provides an information management system where all the information of the project gets accumulated, and throughout the life cycle of the project, that information gets used by different people. Generally, this is something which has been a problem with the industry, that our project information is scattered into different offices or different locations. Why? Because everyone creates the information, but he keeps that information to himself, or he or she keeps that information to his own office. We have this habit of not sharing the information, that openly. It has been our mindset. It is also because of the way we operate. It is also because of the way our contracts have been designed. They many times they also sort of encourage the secrecy, etc. So so that is why we always struggle with the information aspect of project. But now if you see in today's world, information is something which has been the forefront of every discussion. Information has become one of the most important resource in today's world. Okay, so look at here, another, and in that context, another explanation of BIM process is, it is essentially means developing a system which can house or manage all of the information needed in a particular project in a single data repository that could be accessed by all project participants and readily incorporated into all project documents. So look at it. So first part about BIM we discussed was making 3D models, shifting from two-dimensional CAD to 3D information models. That was the first part of BIM process. Now we are talking about BIM. Another second part or another part is BIM acts as a data repository. And if I to really simplify, data repository is like having a storage area. Just like we all have storage space in our house or in our garden or in our projects. Similarly, for information purpose also, we need to have a storage space. We need to have a storage yard. And basically, BIM also provides, BIM process also talks about having such storage space, which we call it as data repository, where all the information could get accumulated or could be fed there, and all this information is available to all the project participants so that they can use this information for variety of purposes. What does that mean? That means optimization. You are using somebody else's information and making it better or refine it for something else. So you're not duplicating the work. Rather, you are using his work, enhancing that, and making a better product or making a better output. So if I have to really simplify this, I always like to give the example of or provide an example of WhatsApp group. Generally, why have we created these WhatsApp groups? WhatsApp groups, one of the unique feature about WhatsApp group is that same information could be conveyed to so many different participants in the single instance. You don't have to sort of put the information, or you don't have to circulate the information individually. In one instance, the information could get circulated in the network, and people can either feed the information or people can extract the information, and of course people can or participants can reuse that information for achieving something better. So single data BIM data repository is something very similar to that concept, that you have to have a sort of this data repository which you can use it, okay, and refine it, reuse it, and again keep it in such a way that it is available to everyone to use it. What does that mean? That means from the beginning from the inception till the from the very beginning of the project till the completion of the project, all throughout that span of from inception to completion, project information gets accumulated, get get nicely organized, get refined, get reused, and at the end of the project, at the time of handover, you have all the information related to that project available with the client, which the client can easily sort of pass on to the facility management, so that even the facility management can use that information throughout the life until the demolition. If he wants to carry out any management related work, if he wants to carry out any repairing work, he has got the 3D model. Along with that, he has got all the associated information. If he wants to change a pipe which has been concealed, he can use the 3D model as reference, understand all the details about that pipe, and then carry out any maintenance or repair work. So that way it becomes tremendously helpful for people who are into operation stages of the project. Okay. Okay. So just to simplify, just to make it really easy, just to summarize, what is the BIM process? So if somebody asks me what is the BIM process, I'll say that BIM process advocates high level of collaboration. It asks people to collaborate. And how does it ask people to collaborate? By bringing all people on a common platform. Okay. So again, if I have to really provide a very easy example of this concept, it is like, traditionally how we traditionally in our weddings or traditionally in our events, people generally tend to sit in a linear fashion, and certain people from the, let's say, organization or host, they sort of serve the food, okay, in a linear fashion. Okay. As against you have your buffet food system, okay, where all the food items are placed nicely on a table, correct? And those who have come to the event, those who are part of this function, they all can decide how much they want to eat. They can all help themselves, and they can have nice whatever lunch or dinner, you know. So if you see the difference between the two, approaches here, of course the output would be the same, to serve the food to people, or to serve the food to the guest, but the approach is very distinct. In one approach, you are involving a lot of resources. There's a certain linearity in the method, and in the buffet food approach, you can see that there is complete transparency. There's a complete understanding of how much food items are available, how people can decide for themselves how much they want, how much they can consume. So they are feel free to have their own decision making. And also another important aspect is there's a complete transparency, okay, and there's complete freedom to sort of access the information. Okay. So that sort of basically BIM is about that. The currently what we are following is a traditional linear approach of food serving, and BIM actually advocates buffet food system, where it says that have a common platform for that particular project, and let all participants either consume the information or feed the information onto that common platform, or you can call it as a dashboard. Okay, so BIM basically advocates high level of collaboration. Okay, it is a process to deliver construction projects successfully without errors. Another sort of motivation behind use of BIM is that because of this high collaboration, we could deliver the projects as minimal as possible in terms of errors, or there should be hardly any errors. That is the whole sort of motivation or expectation. BIM process also results into an integrated model. So integrated model means what? Your architectural model. So instead of now here, instead of producing 2D drawings, now you're making 3D models. Okay. So you have your architectural model, you have your structural model, you have your MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. So your integrated model. And this model, people can work in this model in real time or or offline mode. They can work independently, they can work from their own offices, but still the information could be uploaded, still the collaboration can happen. The technology has this potential to sort of allow this, to sort of achieve this. Okay. So, and then BIM process also stand for creating and managing project information throughout its life cycle. So this information, when we talk about project information, what does that really include? It includes graphical drawings, it includes textual information, it includes documents. So all this information, because information is not only about building models or drawings, it is also about documentation, legal permits, it is also about specification, so textual information, etc. Okay. So just to narrow it down, BIM process stands for collaboration. It results into an integrated model. It has the potential to deliver the projects without errors, and it results into a project information model, which could be useful throughout the life cycle of the project. Okay. So look at here. This diagram basically sort of represents the present working status of AEC industry, old process. Okay. You know, your CAD drawings, look at here, your concept and design, your documents and drawing, and your construction operation in the topmost diagram. And then the new process, which is BIM, in the bottom diagram. It's a relational database. So you can see that all the participants, all the consultants, contractor, different experts, they all are associated with a central database. They all are having to and fro information exchange, correct? So relational database, design, documents, data, active access, sharing and data use, and that results into construction operation. Okay. So you can see that the old process and the new process, they are, the diagram is quite explanatory. You can see that in the old process, how the information exchange is tedious. You can see that how the information exchange is not to and fro. It represents the linear information exchange. It represents the fragmentation. It represents no collaboration. It represents no integration. It represents no communication. Correct. And in the new process, you can see that there's a free flow of information. There's a to and fro. So the new process almost represents a WhatsApp group. I'm particularly giving an example of WhatsApp group because everyone is very familiar with the concept. So you can see that how the relational database really helps in achieving that. Okay, and information has become such a crucial part of every industry, that how successfully you manage the information results into the success of overall your projects. Okay, so that perspective, it is really important. Okay, so look at here another example, just to sort of highlight how BIM process works. Typically, if you see, we have these different stages of project: number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7. Brief, concept, definition, design, build and commission, handover and closeout. Correct? And then from handover and closeout, number 7 becomes operation. Okay. So basically, when we talk about creating a single data repository, when we talk about bringing all people on a common platform, etc., that really, what does that really represent? That really means creating a common data environment. Correct? Because we have architects, we have different consultants, we have contractors. All these people are from different sort of backgrounds. All these people are having different working styles, working methodologies. So bringing all these people together needs a common environment, or these people needs to be brought into a common environment, a common data environment. Okay, so bringing all these people on a common platform sort of leads to a creation of common data environment. I will explain that concept further. You'll get more idea. And from number 1 to number 6, all the information which you keep on accumulating, which you keep on circulating, which gets exchanges, all that information basically represents project information model. Correct? Your design, your conceptual design leads to certain detailed design. Your certain detailed design goes to site and people use it for execution. And at the end, once your project is done, at the end of number 6, contractor's responsibility is to hand over the whole project in a very successful manner to the client or client's operation management body. And then once the handover is done, now the responsibility of the facility management is to manage the facility, and that is called as AIM, asset information model. Means basically your asset, your project, your building, your infrastructure, that is your asset basically. So managing that whole asset is part of your operation management, is part of your facility management. Correct? And that information includes documentation, non-graphical data, and graphical model. Now I'm assuming that everybody is fairly clear about what this graphical model represents, what does non-graphical data means, what does documentation means, etc. Correct? So you can see that how the complete BIM context or the complete BIM picture has been captured into this single diagram. It's a very, very useful diagram, I feel, because it sort of captures the whole gist of BIM. So it represents project information model. That means all the information associated with the project and all that information which gets created from number 1 till number 6. Of course, because from brief, it starts from brief. So brief may not be your graphical information. Brief is your non-graphical data, correct? Then your conceptual design. Your conceptual design is graphical. It has some graphics, correct? After that, you define your concepts, you define all your designs and make detailed design, make detailed analysis. Then you have your build and commission. Build and commission really stand for, it also results into a lot of documentation, correct? So you can see that all these different stages from 1 to 6, they result into different types of information. The nature of information is different, but they all are part of project information model, PIM. And this PIM gets converted into AIM once the project gets handed over to the operation management or facility management. And that's why nowadays you must have heard this concept called eco industry. Nowadays a lot of researchers have started to call it as eco industry because it's architectural, engineering, construction, and operation. Because once your project is complete, operating that project for next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years itself is a huge task. Itself is a huge challenge. Itself is a huge project. And that's why. So all this is part of information model, correct? And when we looked at information from a 3D perspective, it becomes 3D building information model. Okay. Now, another aspect which is associated with BIM is that it has basically 3 important sort of fields associated with it, or it has 3 sets of people or participants which are associated with it: policy field, technology field, and process field. Okay, so policy field, and of course this is a diagram from one of the well-established researcher, Bilal Sakar, in the BIM area. Okay, so policy field, you can see that it really encompasses regulatory bodies, educational institutes, research center, insurance companies, those people who are going to be responsible for either encouragement of BIM in the industry, or those people who are going to advocate the use of BIM, those people who are going to sort of pitch to the different governments about the usage of BIM, etc. So those are the regulatory bodies. Okay, those are the people who are the influencer. For example, in India we have Niti Aayog. They have the sort of capability, or they can have the mandate to sort of promote such good practices. Correct. You have your educational policy field also includes your educational institutes, okay, where such courses could be developed, okay, like all these IITs, NITs, NICMAR, etc. Research center where different research related to these concepts could be carried out. Then you have technology field, correct, because BIM is a concept which basically is a combination of a process which is backed up by a technology, correct. So technology is a very essential part of BIM. And this technology includes your software companies, software providers, hardware companies, they will provide all the hardware required, and your network providers, because we are talking about integrating people, we are talking about collaborating people. So all these people need to be collaborated. So look at here: BIM software, communication systems, model servers, GIS, database, etc. Okay, and then you have process field. Okay, so in process field means people, those who are participant or professional who are involved in the construction industry: owners, operator, project manager, architects. You have your main 3 sort of categories: client, contractor, consultant, and then you have different types of consultant, you have different types of client, and you have different types of contractors, subcontractors, vendors, suppliers. So all these people are part of process. Okay, so together all these 3 fields, basically they are the one who are responsible for the appropriate execution of BIM. Okay. Okay. So to basically summarize what we have really covered in the first hour, what I really want to highlight is that we have been plagued with certain issues when it comes to completion of our projects in the industry. Correct. We really want to do better. We really want to deliver our projects in a more streamlined manner. We really want to be at par with other industry in terms of our output, in terms of our resource utilization, etc. And in that context, basically BIM term or BIM concept has come into the forefront. And then in that, we also sort of covered this aspect where there's a huge misconception about BIM has been prevalent in the industry or in the participants of the industry. One of the there could be different reasons of this misconception. One of the reasons is the aggressive marketing by software companies. They try to sell their products using BIM, which is a popular name, so they want to use it into their advantage. Then we have discussed that BIM acronym basically stands for two meanings. One is BIM as a single acronym, which is independent acronym, which is building information model. That means you can see a diagram. This qualifies as a building information model. Why? Because this particular model represents the third dimension, as well as it has all the construction related information. Construction related information means the information which could be really be useful on the construction site for execution purpose, or the information which is embedded into this particular model. It could be reused for various other purposes, or the same model could be taken by different people or different experts and add more information to it, make it more information rich. Like for example, if I am a safety engineer or if I am a safety expert, I can provide all the safety infrastructure which is required as part of this project. I could show it on the project. I could provide that information into the project or into the model. So this is one meaning of building information model. And then, as I said, second meaning of BIM acronym is a process. It is a process coined to deal successfully with the problem of fragmentation and error. With BIM, you want to deliver projects without any error and in a very streamlined manner. This is the whole idea. BIM process also stands for creation and use of a single data repository. This data repository basically means having a data set which contains all the accumulated information which gets accumulated throughout the life cycle of the project, and all the participants, they have the access to this particular information where they can consume the information, they can process the information, they can reuse the information, and at the same time they can also add the information, they can also contribute the information. Okay, so basically this is all about sort of overview of BIM as a process. Then we have discussed about interlocking fields of BIM, how these fields could be the backbone of BIM momentum, etc. And then now, what are the core values on which BIM is based? Of course, more or less we have covered that, so I'll not really go into the very details of it, but basically productivity, shared knowledge resource, reuse of project information, that is something very important. Having amiability among stakeholders. We have a lot of friction among the stakeholders. So BIM, one of the core values is to create the amiability. Having a very positive outlook towards technology adoption and use, visualization aid. Like imagine you have 3D models with people who are working on sites. It provides an altogether different experience for them. They can get a huge clarity in terms of what they are going to achieve or what they are going to do. And that of course leads to less mistakes, less error. Concurrent working. One of the important core value at the BIM is concurrent working. That means people can work concurrently on the same data set and still manage to able to produce better output. Like for example, architect, while he's working on the model, in real time, even the structural engineer or HVAC engineer can access the model and can sort of add his inputs into the model. So that sort of thing. Evolution of BIM, although BIM concept has been in the sort of discussion from 70s, there have been different sort of acronyms or different sort of terminologies have been coined, like for example, virtual building by Graphisoft, by Bentley integrated project models, and by Autodesk or Vectorworks building information model. But it has really gained the momentum in last 10-15 years where these sort of software applications have come and they have really started to sort of support the concept of BIM. So basically technology has sort of pushed the concept into the market. The concept was already exist in the market, but there were not many takers for the concept. But the moment technology started sort of responding to the concept, responding to the expectation of the concept, it has now become, it has sort of garnered a lot of buzz in the market. A lot of people are now sort of really excited about this particular concept, because they are hopeful that some of their challenges or some of their issues could be sort of resolved using this concept. Now if I have to really dig deep into the concept of BIM or the process of BIM, there are three basically generic stages of BIM. Okay, if somebody is really looking to understand in a detailed manner, if somebody really wants to have BIM implemented on a project, he can visualize the whole BIM process into these three stages. One is object-based modeling, second is model-based collaboration, and third is network-based integration. So let's go one by one into each of these stages. Number one is object-based modeling. So for example, look at here. When a company or when an organization, it could be a client organization, it could be a consulting organization. When a consultant shifts from 2D creation of 2D drawing, instead of that, when he starts making three-dimensional models, that comes under this stage of object-based modeling. That means you are creating buildings using these predefined objects. Okay, and the advantage of this object-based modeling is because all your objects are already predefined. Like for example, if I have to give name some of the objects like door, wall, window, columns, footings, some of these conventional objects have already been sort of defined in the object libraries. So what do the designers or what do the consultants have to do is just to simply use those predefined objects and create designs, or as part of the design they can use those objects and create models. So their output really becomes much faster. Their process, their speed of work really becomes much quicker, and the output could be of much better quality. So that is the advantage of having technology. So basically this object-based modeling, this particular stage is all about using this sort of comparatively new software such as Autodesk Revit, Bentley, those Graphisoft, etc. There are different software applications which have the capability to produce 3D models. And the advantage of having these models is that not only you can generate 3D models, but you can also generate 2D drawings. You can also generate elevations. You can also generate sections. So all these sectional aspects, elevations, these are all dynamically linked with each other. Generally, when I talk about this concept, I show all the softwares to people, but because now I'm delivering this lecture from home, it's not possible for me to show all the softwares. But what I'm trying to establish here is that look at this diagram. So from the same drawing, you can get the 3D drawing, you can get the elevation, you can get the section, you can get the detail sections, you can get the cut sections, you know. So, so from the one simple data set, you can generate variety of outputs. Okay. And what does that really mean? That means you're optimizing your resources. In less number of man hours, you are producing a much better output. You are producing a much larger output, you know. And you can see that you can really produce very detailed models. You can really produce very detailed drawings, you know. And that's why it is called as graphical as well as information model, you know. And for example, Autodesk Revit is one of the very popular sort of application in this, which could be really you know. But this is just one sort of software application available in the market. You can have many such more software application. It is completely up to you, or it is completely up to the consultant what kind of software application he can use. BIM really does not talk about any particular use of any software. Okay, it talks about creation of three-dimensional building information model, but it really does not promote any particular vendor, or it does not really advocate any particular vendor. It focuses purely on the use of latest technology. Okay, so even somebody if using SketchUp, for example, which is a very basic software, if somebody is using that software also, there's absolutely nothing wrong in that, because it produces a visualization aid. Of course, it may not be fully qualified as information building information model because it lacks the information, because it is purely graphical model, but still it has the ability to show the, to provide the visual aid, where you can see the building, where you can see the infrastructure project, or where you can see your building components into a 3D atmosphere. Okay, and look at here, you can really derive a very good quality output out of this with the use of this technology. So object-based technology, object-based modeling is something very important, and one of the primary reason of BIM being popular is because of this particular aspect of object-based modeling. Especially the architects, especially the consultants, they they get quite excited with the use of object-based modeling, because their output could be now get received by client or by contractor in a much better manner. Generally, when they produce drawings, it is laborsome, it is tiresome to read the drawings, to understand the drawing, and really implement those on site. So if you can, but with the same effort, within the same time, in the same energy level, if you can produce a 3D model along with sections, elevation, etc., automatically, because all this is dynamically linked. One of the sort of advantage of having technology is that all these different aspects of drawings are linked to each other dynamically. So if you make a change in the plan, if you delete a window in the plan, even that gets reflected into your elevation and section, you know. So your change management is also very extremely effective. Okay, so object-based modeling is something I feel has the ability to change the construction scenario, especially at the design stage, especially from conceptual and design stage, especially at the stage where this activity of producing drawings or delivering drawings on site, all that could change into delivery of 3D models or delivery of 3D building models into tabs, where construction people can use tabs, these small tablets, and refer to these 3D models through the tablet. So you are printing of drawings, putting those drawings or sending those drawings on site, etc. All that could, in few years, it might get this practice might get completely eradicated from the scene. Okay, so object-based modeling is something extremely important. I feel it is a good start point for any organization or for any professional to get involved in the BIM process. Okay, and as I said, object-based modeling is relevant to everyone who is in the business of making drawing, and they can very well transit themselves from the practice of 2D drawing to making 3D building information model. Okay, that transition might be slow, but that transition is not extremely difficult. somebody who has a good understanding of making drawings can really transit themselves into the practice of making 3D models. Okay, and these are not only graphical models. These are not artistic models. These are real models. Those models which could be useful on the construction site for execution. That is the backbone, or that is sort of the main gist behind this whole concept. Then model-based collaboration. Okay, so once you create these different object-based modeling, so this object-based modeling contains creation of architectural model, which is also called as AIM, architectural information model, or structural information model, where you put all the structural details. Then you put HVAC related, HVAC related detail, piping related detail, plumbing related detail. So all these different types of models could be created in the object-based modeling. Okay, and then this. So many times what happen, all these models, they get created into different offices from different people. So it is really important to integrate all these models, really combine them into a single sort of a composite model. Okay, so 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 creation of this integrated model, it could be part of your second stage, which is model based collaboration. That means people collaborate, people come together with different background, with different expertise in the second stage, which is called as model based collaboration. Okay, so excuse me. So model based collaboration is all about collaborating, is all about coming together, but the basis of collaborating, or the basis of coming together, or the common point between of collaborating will be the model, use of these building models to collaborate. Okay, like for example, as I said, all these different engineers, discipline specific engineers, they can collaborate and they can combine the model, and so that you can produce a fully integrated model where you can see, look at here, this is a diagram. For example, you can see that architect, engineer, uh, plumbing guy, all these people have done their modeling work, and all that has been combined into a single model. Okay, so this is also called as federal model. That means a model where everyone is the owner of the model, or a model which is owned by everyone, federated model or federated model. Okay, so so this particular stage of model based collaboration is extremely important. It is almost it if I have to really define it objectively, it starts at the end of your modeling, you can say that, and then it lasts till all the works is sent to the site work. Okay, so it is sort of it connects your modeling stage to the your site works or field work. Okay, so model based collaboration means integrating people, or collaborating different people, different consultants, even the contractor. The contractor can come into the picture. He can have his input into the models. He can have his suggestion into the models. You can have buildability analysis. You can have constructability analysis, etc. Different vendors can also provide their input just to refine the models. Okay, so model based collaboration is really important, and model based collaboration also includes various dimensions of BIM. There are various dimensions which are associated with BIM, like for example 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, and 7D. Okay, so 3D, if you can see on the screen, it stands for three-dimensional rendering of the artifact. 4D is duration analysis, 5D is cost analysis, 6D is sustainability assessment, and 7D is management phase of what has been achieved. Okay, sometimes some people also refer 6D as facility management and 7D as sustainability, but more or less from your 3D to 7D, you cover aspects such as three-dimensional clash detection, scheduling, costing, facility management, operation management, and sustainability. Okay, so so basically this is all part of your model-based collaboration. And if I have to really explain what does that really include, it includes your basically, of course, traditionally you have your two-dimensional drawings. Okay, but when you enter into the sort of beam phase, you have your three-dimensional models, and you can use these three-dimensional models to carry out the clash detection. Okay, so clash detection concept, I feel, is something which is extremely popular with people who are aware about BIM, and it is something which I feel is the application which gets people feel relatable very often, or people feel that this is something which is extremely useful for them, especially industry participants. Why? Because clash detection, really, what does it really stand for? It means 3D clash detection. What does it really stand for? It means finding out the clashes between the different components, different individual objects of a building. Like, for example, what are the different objects? Like your column, your door, your beam, your HVAC duct, your firefighting pipe, etc. Your uh, electricity cabling, etc. So these are different components. These are different building objects, but they are from different background as well. Some of the components are from architectural background. Some of the components are from structural engineering background. Some of the components are from HVAC background. Some of the components are from plumbing background. So what happens when we merge these models together, when we sort of integrate these different discipline specific models together, many times they start to overlap on each other, or they start to clash with each other. Okay, and traditionally what happens, we tend to find such clashes at the site level. Okay, this is something which is very common. I mean, I have interacted with a lot of industry people, and they say that this happens all the time. Especially people who work on site, they feel that it happens all the time, that components from different background, building components from different background, when these people, they start executing these components, they realize that they are starting to sort of overlap, or they're starting to sort of clash with each other. They are almost like accidents of objects. Okay, so you can see this in this diagram. Your structural beam is colliding with your HVAC duct. Okay, so so it is really important, to sort of how this clash detection carried out before your 3D models, or before your drawings which have been converted from 3D models go to the site, or they go for the execution purpose. So this is something, because when you have your 3D clashes, when you find this clash of objects on the site, what does that mean? That means you have to stop the work, you have to stop the activity, you have to, the project manager has to go back to the consultants, project manager has to go back to the people who have created the drawings, people who have done the design. And now those people, they have to discuss among themselves, they have to change the design, they have to change the drawing, they have to modify the drawing, they have to reissue the drawing. And till that time, your resources are idle on site. Your work stops on site. Okay, so this is a very difficult scenario. This is a scenario which is very devastating from a contractor point of view. Okay, and that is why 3D clash detection is something which is very popular among the construction participants. Like people may not adopt, or people may not accept BIM holistically, but a lot of people, a lot of industry participants, they get really excited about clash detection independently. They really want to have only clash detection. They just want to take out the clashes out of their project. Although they might want to do the work in a very traditional manner, they may not be very enthusiastic about the adoption of BIM or adjacent technology. But this particular application, I have seen that people really able to relate. People are very excited. Okay, so such clash detection, you can carry out such clashes. You can find out clashes from the projects. I carry out clashes using Navisworks software. So it is another Autodesk product. Just like you have Autodesk product, Revit architecture or Revit structure, Revit modeling. Similarly, you have a Autodesk product called Navisworks Manage. It's a software application. It is mainly for coordination and communication. It is not a software for creation of models, but it is a software for managing models. Okay. So extremely useful. Okay. So this particular 3D clash detection can be a good starting point for those who are really entering into the BIM adoption stage. Okay, because they can immediately see the output. Many times, especially in the Indian context, people like to see the tangible output. If they invest in something, if they adopt a new technology or new process, they at times they lack the patience. They want to see the output to justify their decision. So in that context, 3D clash detection is extremely important, extremely useful. Okay, but then there are also limitations in terms of having the accuracy in the models. If your models are not accurate, of course the clashes won't be accurate. Also, at times it is difficult, many times, like because BIM still a concept which is getting diffused into the industry or into the construction sector. So many times not all the designers are in sync with creation of 3D models. So if you don't have 3D models from all the different disciplines, then it becomes very difficult to carry out such clash detection test. Also, carrying out clash detection test is also a very meticulous. It needs to be done very meticulously. If you carry out the clashes in an incorrect manner, you end up getting thousands of clashes. So handling such thousands of clashes is also very challenging. You know, so it needs certain approach. It needs a very sort of accurate approach, clear-cut thinking, and also you need different types of discipline-specific models. Okay, but also okay, I will at times software also produces challenges. Integrating of these models through software system also produces challenges, but I will go to that aspect little later. Okay, so so model-based collaboration includes 3D clash detection. Okay, then it includes another important dimension, which is 4D timeliner simulation. Okay, what does that really mean? That means you can combine your 3D model with your construction schedule. So you can use your 3D model to generate construction schedule, correct? And you can integrate your schedule and your model to sort of come up with a very sort of to produce a 3D visualization of your construction activities, or to produce 3D visualization of how you are going to implement or execute the project. Okay, I would like to show an example of this one. I would like to show you a small simulation which has been carried out in Navisworks. So I'm about to play a video which will demonstrate that how you can integrate your construction schedule with your 3D model. Okay, so basically you will see two important ingredients here. You will see a building model, an industrial building model, very exclusive model. And also you will see that how that model will be constructed as per the schedule. Generally, you must be aware that we generate construction schedules using software such as MS Project, Primavera, even Excel is also being used. So, so we create construction schedules just to establish that how you are going to carry out the works. And it is an extremely important aspect of construction management. It is an extremely important aspect of project execution, that creating schedules. And creating schedule essentially stands for what? It stands for use of activities, and also sort of uh, sort of demonstrating that how these activities will be carried out, how much time requires, and how many days are required, and what sort of resources will be associated with those particular activities. For example, if I have to really provide some basic examples of activities, is like excavation for pad foundations, okay, construction of footings, construction of your columns, correct? Construction of brick walls, in, fixing of doors, fixing of windows, fixing of cladding, outside cladding material, etc. So these are some of the examples of activities, and all these activities we put into a schedule that, and we establish a relationship between these activities, that when one activity is finished, second will start, or both activities will be created parallelly or will run parallelly, etc. Correct? So basically this scheduling of construction activities is an extremely important part of our construction management. Correct? And of course, only scheduling also requires the input from the from the engineer in terms of how many days you require for each activity, and you also would like to associate resources, material resources, labor resources, equipment resources, so that you can also calculate costing which is associated with the activities. So currently the practice is people have two-dimensional drawing sets independently created, and people there are contractors or there are certain experts who create construction schedules independently, but at times their integration is not there. So 4D application of BIM is all about how we can integrate your construction schedules with your 3D model. That's why it is called as 4D. 3D model plus schedule plus time. Okay, so let me run this video so that you'll get a good idea. Also have a look at the left top corner. You will also see the schedule there. Day 15, day 16, week 3. Okay. Okay. So So basically, so if I have to really talk a little bit more in detail about this one, the software program used was Navisworks from Autodesk company or vendor, fairly easy software. So, so basically, what did we really able to capture here was the how, in what sequence the work will be carried out. So it is completely up to the different people who are involved in the project to use it effectively for different scenarios, for different purposes. Like somebody can really use it to sort of portray their company's achievement. Somebody can use it in the show to provide progress tracking, how much work has been planned and how much work has been achieved. So generally what happens, tracking through your traditional MS Project Primavera Excel spreadsheet becomes very difficult, especially to the non-technical people, especially to client bodies, especially to the finance organization, etc. So you can really demonstrate all this, very effectively through this kind of visual aid. Even you could present this work to people who are working on site. They can get a very good understanding of what sequence work will be carried out. Generally on site you have morning meetings, you have sunset meetings. So you can really have such kind of demonstration. You can really show them. You don't have to create simulations of the whole project scale. You can break it down into small chunks so that you can focus on smaller parts or small scale, but in a more detailed manner. you know so this is something, another application which is getting popular. People use it. Sometimes uh, client use it for different purposes. Consultant use it for different purposes. Contractor can use it to show to the client that how work has been achieved, how work has been planned, etc. So extremely useful. But of course, it has its own challenges also, especially in the Indian context, uh, because it is important that if you want to show how the work progress will happen, it is important to have a very sort of a detailed model. It is important to have a complete model. If your model has some of the elements missing, then it won't be possible to demonstrate the work progress. Like for example, if you want to show how your formwork work will be carried out, correct, then it is important to have formwork elements model in the building model or in the project. Okay, if you want to show that how crane will be operated or when the crane will be situated, where it will be situated, then it is important to have your crane, basically crane object, to be present in the model. Correct. So still it is growing. People are getting better at it. People are making better use of 4D simulation, and it is really having the sort of potential to really track progress, to track the progress in a much effective manner, in a much better manner. Okay. Now next dimension of BIM is 5D. Okay, so basically 5D stands for quantity extraction. Okay, another important application where from the models which you have created in the earlier stage, the models which you have created in the object-based modeling in the stage 1, in stage 2 you can use those models to take out all the material quantity. Look at here, I can use those models and take out all the material quantities, such as how much concrete I need, how many cubic meter of concrete I need, how much of brickwork I need to carry it out. Okay, so it completely depends on how much detail or how much in-depth model I have created. And if my model has all the information, that's why I'm emphasizing on the information part, building information model. So if your model has information, you will be able to automatically extract all the material quantities of the project. So your material quantities could be very accurate, as well as it could be a very quick extraction. Typically, it is a very cumbersome process to take out material quantities from 2D drawings. You can also very easily find out how many number of doors. You can also very easily find out how many number of windows. And then you can get all that data into Excel and just put, if you add a cost of one door, you will get the cost of all the doors. If you add a cost of one window, you can get a cost of all the windows, etc. So that way your costing, material extraction and costing can also be partially fulfilled with 5D material extraction. It could be quite useful. Of course, it has its own share of limitation, just like it has its own advantages. You need to have very accurate model. If your model lacks accuracy, it will get reflected into your material extraction. Yes or no? But another advantage here is that your quantity extracted are linked to the model. So if you make changes into the model, they get reflected in the quantities. Generally, this is one of the sort of Achilles heel of construction industry, where changes don't get reflected or changes don't get circulated in throughout the hierarchy of the project. Many times client and architect, they discuss and they make a change, but they tend to forget to convey that change to the quantity surveyor, or they tend to forget that change to the contractor, and contractor keeps carrying out the same work as decided earlier. And later on it becomes a huge massive issue in the construction. So to get rid of such issues, uh, this material extraction, at least conceptual material or quick estimation, could be done at tender stage. It is extremely useful to have such models, and from such models you can really generate not absolute 100% detailed quantities, but conceptual quantities could be done very fast. And still it is a work in progress. With technological development, you will see in near future more and more such applications will come in market, and more usage will be seen. Okay, so 5D really stands for material extraction, and because you can extract the material quantities, you can also put the cost, you can also derive the cost out of that material. Okay, so so stage 1 is object-based modeling, stage 2 is model-based collaboration. So just to summarize how BIM process works, look at here. It starts from programming, okay, programming, conceptual design, detailed design, analysis, documentation, fabrication, 3D fabrication, 3D modeling, then 4D, 5D, then construction, logistics, operation and maintenance, and demolition. And you can see that at the heart of all that, at the center of all that, is your central data repository. All the information from your project gets accumulated here. And people, they don't need to communicate with each other office to office or one to one. They can communicate through each other through a BIM forum. You have a BIM manager, through BIM manager they can communicate, and that communication could be automated, and all this information exchange gets recorded, gets saved into the central repository. So later on it is extremely useful also for any deviation, for any claim settlement, etc., because you have all the information, which is recorded, you have all the information which is gathered. So extremely useful. Okay, but here also another challenge is that, as I said before, BIM can help you in achieving different softwares or use of different softwares, but many times when you want to combine data from different softwares, or when you want to exchange data between two different softwares, they may not be 100% compatible with each other. They may show certain limitations, etc., because many times these models are vendor specific, their specifications are vendor specific, so they may not be 100% compatible with each other. And in that case, you can use IFC as a data exchange neutral format. Okay, industry foundation classes, extremely useful concept, where you can use that IFC format to sort of transfer information from one software to another. Okay, and of course there is open BIM concept, where information will be easily circulated among different technological system, different software application, etc. But that will have still few years to really come into the forefront or come into the mainstream. Okay, look at here, another sort of snapshot of how you can develop your digital infrastructure at a very basic level. Okay, like for example, if you really want to have BIM on a project, you can have your BIM data repository. Okay, you can, and I have just given an example. Of course, it is just you can use Autodesk BIM 360 glue and field in the form of data repository. This is just one of the product available in the market. I'm not saying that it is the only product. You can use different products which stand for data repository. Like for example, Econex is another option. And if you want to carry out any land development related work, if you want to show the cut fill area, if you want to design the road network, you can easily use Civil 3D. Okay, if you want to show any infrastructure related work, you can easily use InfraWorks. Okay, if you want to create building specific modeling, then you can go for architectural modeling, structural modeling, MEP modeling. And if you want to carry out different, as I said, model-based collaboration like 3D clash detection, 4D simulation, 5D sort of cost estimation, etc., you can go for this one. Okay, so and all these different softwares, all these different works, all that information, all that could get accumulated into your BIM data repository. And now, and then it will be extremely important sort of to make all this information available to the site people, because what is the use of doing all these if it is not available to the site people, which is we call it as field data. So look at here. So if I have to really summarize the whole BIM process, it has 3 stages. Okay, object-based modeling, okay, model-based collaboration, and network-based integration. So network-based integration means bringing all these people together on a common platform, or connecting all these people through a common network. Okay, so look at here, the first rectangle, which is in sort of light green color, okay, pista color, it represents your modeling stage. Your light blue color represents your model collaboration stage, and your pink sort of rectangle, it represents your people who are working on field. Okay, those who are involved in site execution. So look at here, they can access all the information. Many times people who are on site, generally they are the one who are the recipient of the information. They are the one who will use the information. But if they have any queries, if they have any issues, they will upload those issues. They will, if they have RFI, for example, the common famous term is request for information. So they can easily put that information, correct? They can easily upload all those RFIs, all these queries into the data repository, and then the BIM manager job is to address all these queries, all these issues, and get them resolved, in the BIM atmosphere. Get them resolved from these different consultants and provide a solution. Okay, and this network, the third stage, which is network-based integration, is basically BIM. The product name is BIM 360 glue and fill. Of course, this is just one product available in the market. You can opt for any system which provides such network-based integration. Means it provides a network which can integrate people from different backgrounds in the same project. Okay. Look at here. So basically, BIM implementation stands for initialize the project through BIM. Then you have modeling phase. Then you have inter-office works, and then you have field works. So inter-office works means model-based collaboration. That means people from different offices collaborate. And field works means people who are on site, people who are working on field, getting them involved, connecting them through network system, and then providing all the help to them, getting all the information to reaching to them, and also resolving their queries. Okay. Okay. So this is basically the overview of really BIM implementation. I would just like to show one small BIM case. Okay. So just to demonstrate that whatever so far I have discussed, in a practical world, how it could be really implemented. So look at here. This is a case example of Abu Dhabi Airport project. I'll just touch upon the important parts. So look at here, Abu Dhabi Airport Company, and they wanted to execute this midfield terminal project. Look at here, X-shaped midfield terminal project. You can see in the picture, and this whole project has been executed through BIM. Okay. So look at here, BIM as a criteria for tender selection. Okay. So it was the client was very adamant. He wanted to deliver the project through complete BIM process. Okay. Look at here. Abu Dhabi Airport Company sought to promote technologies that would facilitate the delivery of the project and enhance its operation throughout its life cycle. One such initiative was requirement of BIM integrated process. Okay, so this whole project, Abu Dhabi Airport X-shaped terminal building, this whole project has been delivered through BI. Okay, if I have to really give a small brief about it, 7 lakh square meter building will accommodate 65 aircraft and handle 8,500 passengers per hour. Okay, and you can see that at the tender stage, the client had put forward some of the conditions, such as the contractor must develop, communicate, and share a comprehensive BIM for all disciplines, involving all subcontractors and manufacturers. So you can see that he expected the main contractor to come up with the BIM application, to BIM models, then BIM implementation, site logistic, and common platform for all stakeholders to exchange the information. Okay. So with that, I would like to sort of conclude my lecture.